What I love about wellness architecture and lifestyle design is that it's seeing your body and your health as your greatest creation, your greatest masterpiece, your art, and your life is your creation, yours to design, yours to experience, yours to create.
Welcome to Intuition Unlocked, the podcast empowering empathic women who feel misunderstood, overwhelmed, or disconnected from their intuition, begin to trust their sensitivities, find inner clarity, and show up with embodied, unstoppable confidence in their daily lives. I am your host, Olivia Ashley, an empath and intuitive, and I am so happy you're here. Hello, and welcome back to the show, friends. I'm so glad you're here for today's episode because this conversation is one that's going to invite you to slow down, reconnect, and remember the innate wisdom of your body. I am joined today by my guest, Finck, a wellness architect and lifestyle designer pioneering a new path in holistic health. Anna is the creator of Embodied Wellness, a transformative body of work where science meets spirituality and personal growth meets alchemy. In this episode, Anna and I explore what it truly means to live embodied, how the body holds wisdom and codes that guide us toward greater vitality, and how we can begin to shift from survival mode into creation mode. You're also going to learn how to tune into your body's signals to access deeper intuition, how embodiment transforms your relationship with health and well-being, and what the preconception era is and how it can teach every woman about empowerment and alignment in their life, whether or not motherhood is a part of your journey. So settle in, and I hope you enjoy this illuminating and inspiring conversation with Anna. Welcome, Anna. I'm so happy and honored to have you here on Intuition Unlocked.
I am so honored to be here. Thank you so much, Olivia, for the honor and the pleasure of this podcast.
You're so welcome. Well, you have such a unique journey from stepping away from medical school to creating your own body of work in wellness. Can you share a bit of your story and what led you to become a wellness architect and lifestyle designer, which, by the way, I love those terms, who is pioneering an innovative path in the wellness space? I'd love to, hear a bit about it.
Of course, yes. So from the very beginning, from childhood, I wanted to be a doctor. My little brother died when I was 4 years old, and my mom was giving birth, and he tied a knot in the umbilical cord. And she had had multiple miscarriages and complicated pregnancy. She almost lost me when she was 4.5 months pregnant. And it just felt like something in my heart. Like I wanted to help people heal. I wanted to help people connect to their body wisdom, their intuition. And so at that young age, I set my sight on medical school, thinking that becoming a medical doctor would be the path to fulfilling this soul calling. And while I was in college, working with different doctors, shadowing, I felt disillusioned by the system. I felt a lot of frustration. Why aren't we talking about the body? Why aren't we talking about nutrition and lifestyle and spirituality and all these other components and elements of wellness? And I spoke with a lot of different practitioners and medical doctors who said I would never do this again. If I had to do over, I would choose something else. I feel like I'm just a medication manager. I don't get the time with the patient that I want. And it just felt very regulated and restricted. And I started to feel like there was something more, although I didn't know what that was. And so while I was accepted to medical school, I felt this sinking feeling in my body. And I feel like this conversation ties in perfectly with Intuition Unlocked because that was my first real vivid sense and knowing of interoception of intuition. Like I've always had a very strong intuition, but I cut it off at a very young age. But having that experience was so vivid. And then I was listening to something, I got really into personal growth and development, and interoception came in. And it's like your body's ability to detect truth, to tell you what is aligned and what is not based on sensation before the mind can even analyze it. And so I was in Chile, South America. I came back to New Mexico. My mom was dealing with chronic illness, multiple autoimmune condition diagnoses, and the prescriptions and medications that she was prescribed were so harsh in their side effects, and they weren't addressing the root. We weren't getting to what's actually going on. And so I set out to heal my mom, and I poured into the literature. I went to the library. I checked out a whole stack of books and poured into psychology, nutrition, Eastern medicine, Western medicine, lifestyle medicine, all these different modalities. And that catalyzed my journey. And then I started experiencing these symptoms in a more heightened way. I had always had PMS, acne, chronic fatigue, digestive health issues, allergies, all these symptoms that I had normalized. And I realized symptoms are so common, they've been normalized, but just because they're common, they're not normal. And so I lost my cycle for 3 years. I stopped ovulating. I stopped menstruating. I lost my libido. I had severe adrenal fatigue. I was sleeping 10, 11 hours a night and waking up so exhausted, so depleted. I started to get really into nutrition and learn there are so many conflicting views on what's healthy and what's not. And you can find an argument for and against every theory out there. And it made me feel so confused. I was like, what is truth? And from there, I found integrative nutrition health coaching and I pursued a health coaching certification. And then that led me to the next golden thread of yoga and teaching yoga and then breath work and becoming a trauma informed breathwork facilitator and looking at my own trauma in my life. And all these different threads came together and started another life coaching program and got into neurolinguistic programming and emotional freedom technique and the emotional release through the body and knowing that your body is the portal for your power, for your divine essence to stream through. And when we are unwell and we don't have that foundation of radiant health, we are on an unstable foundation. It's this shaky foundation for the rest of our life. And our body really is the temple for our soul. So it was this whole healing journey for me. I healed myself naturally despite the lack of evidence, despite the odds. I became the evidence I didn't have. And in that, I became aware of how many other women are silently struggling with reproductive health conditions, with PMS, with infertility, with all of these different symptoms and conditions that are not normal, and how the shame keeps us silent and separated. And then it keeps us feeling like we're not in control, we don't have power, but we have so much more power than we realize. And so that led me to go on my own journey. This whole journey was a personal journey for her, for my mom and her healing, and then for me. And now it's for you, the other women who are silently struggling with these symptoms and conditions and feel like there's not a way to heal. There's something more, but you haven't found it. And there's another way. Like, I just want you to know wherever you are on your journey, there is another way. And there's so much more than we've been led to believe. And then wellness architecture came through. So it's been this whole culmination of what I call my personalized PhD over the last 8 years of really growing and evolving into the woman that I am and building a foundation of my health and my sense of conviction and certainty to then walk with other women on their journey to radiance.
Wow, that's incredibly powerful. And I'm so proud of you for listening and for saying, okay, I feel this. This is what I need to do, and stepping up to help heal your mom and heal yourself. And being, I'd say, in the power seat, you decided, I'm not going to sit back and just wait and see what others tell me. I'm going to step forward and learn and grow and use myself as that really kind of, experimental space to say, does this work? Is this healing? Is this having the results that I want? So I am so impressed. And I think that's such a beautiful, powerful story, which leads me to talk about you being the creator of Embodied Wellness, which is so beautiful. And you really describe it as both science and spirituality, art and alchemy. And I think that's such a wonderful blend of it all. And so for women listening, I know you touched a little bit about this, but I want to get deeper into what does it really mean to live embodied and how does that shift our experience of health and well-being?
Yes, so everyone's experience is so unique and so different, and your body is the source of your power. And we have all been living most of our lives so disconnected from the body, very much in the mind. This was my personal experience, and I know so many other women who relate and resonate. And to live embodied is to live connected to your body, to live empowered. Because when you're connected to your body, you're connected to your power. And it's about feeling into your body, feeling so much confidence in who you are, so much power in your body. I know when I started connecting to my body, I felt so much pain, discomfort, trauma arise, resistance. But the body is the gateway to more. I see so many people who have created so much success and so much wealth, and then it's like they don't have their health. They've built it all while compromising their health, and now they're spending their wealth trying to regain their health. And this is about really building them both simultaneously, knowing that your health is the greatest wealth. And that to live embodied is to live connected to your truth, your intuition, your body, knowing what yes feels like in your body and what no feels like in your body, and understanding your body's codes, your body's wisdom. Your body is just speaking to you. Symptoms are simply signals. And so if you want to feel more connected and in touch with your body, you can simply take your left hand and place it over your abdomen and say, body, show me what yes feels like. And then breathe and exhale, let it go. And you'll start to develop this connection, this relationship to your body and notice the sensations. And if it doesn't feel very strong, you can say, body, show me what yes feels like even louder so I can feel it. And then begin to feel that and breathe. The breath moves the energy. And then when you say, body, show me what no feels like, begin to see what no feels like. And so when you're in a situation in your life and you want to know what yes and no feels like, if it's an aligned decision, you can ask your body because your body is this divine technology that is guiding you always.
Absolutely. That was so beautiful and so simple. That's what I'm always really reminded and amazed by as I work more and more with my intuition and listening to my body is there is so much wisdom within it that we can start to explore. And once you build that connection, you always have it. It's not one that you're going to lose. And I want to dive a little deeper into what do you see as some of the roots of where we are losing our embodiment, where as women, we are having that burnout, that exhaustion. Why is this happening on such a high scale?
One, stress. We live in a world where stress is rampant and stress codes our body for survival. When we're in stress response, we're in the sympathetic nervous system and the adrenaline, the cortisol, the stress hormones are rushing through our body. And so, nutrition, often we're nourishing our bodies with foods that don't actually nourish our adrenals, our brain, our body with the nutrients that they need. So that leads to burnout and pathogens, toxicity, exposure to different toxins, pathogens, and toxic heavy metals really impact us in our body. And so, not having that foundation of cleansing in place can really alter our health and our clarity because when our body is clogged and flooded with toxins and pathogens, it can interrupt the signals of communication. It can kind of cloud that pristine clarity that you feel with your body. And so it's a lot about the adrenal health. It's a lot about nourishing your body, breathing, regulating your nervous system. There are so many different factors, and I always come down to your unique body blueprint. Everyone's body blueprint is so unique based on their environment, their history, their parents, the toxic load, the pathogenic load, and all of these confounding variables. And so we get to explore these different variables and see, okay, what's most at play, and look at the symptoms that are being illuminated because those will reveal the root.
Absolutely. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. And I think I talked about this on a different episode was this feeling of this push towards we are really at the helm of probably going to watch a lot of collapse around us in terms of people are not well. And I think that's going to continue if things don't change. We don't usually want to make change as humans until we are so uncomfortable or something's wrong, then that pushes us. But there's an opportunity, I just feel this sense of everything you're talking about is kind of lighting the way for a new paradigm shift within how do we actually address health, talk about this. And I find that so fascinating. And I'm curious if you just have anything to add to that of kind of what you've seen or what you're experiencing as well.
I mean, exactly. I see it so much, especially in women, because when we are menstruating our cycle, our immune system is lowered by 80%. And then when we're ovulating, it's lowered by 40%. So that decrease, that drop in the immune system can make us more susceptible to these pathogens and toxins. And then it presents in these different ways. And I am seeing more people on medications than I know off medications. I see more people dealing with symptoms than are symptom free. I mean, every single human is experiencing at least one symptom, even if they're aware of it or not. We just normalize so many symptoms like heartburn or acne. It's hormonal. It's this. It's not normal. And it's like I see where we're headed and it's like how bad does it have to get before we make a change? It's like how uncomfortable, how painful do we have to let it become to then catalyze that change in our trajectory? And we're really in a revolution in this world with health, with wealth, with the whole political and global systems. Everything is changing. And just before it gets better, it often feels like it's getting worse. But that, as David Guillaume says, who teaches on the Kabbalah, it's like when you're manifesting health and you're creating that life that you desire, you'll often experience the opposite of that as you prepare to receive that which you desire. Because there's a new version of you that needs to come online and that you need to embody to be a match for that which you're calling in, that vision you hold.
Yes, that's so powerful and so important to remember. So, I want to start diving more deep into some of talking about how we can help women listening get back into alignment. And you mentioned that the body holds wisdom and codes, and I find that so interesting and absolutely agree with. But I would love for you to elaborate on what you mean by this and what we can learn from it.
Absolutely. And one note I want to make before we dive in there is you did not manifest your symptoms. You did not manifest your illness. We're living in a world that is highly toxic. The system has been rigged and not in our favor. And so we get to become empowered. Sometimes the truth hurts, but the truth heals. And so when we know what actually helps us heal, we can begin to align with that and take aligned action to create radiant health. And so your body is the source of your power, it's the source of your wisdom. Your body is coded for radiance, for purpose, for wealth, for abundance of all forms. You're coded by design to live your soul calling. And when we're living in alignment, you'll feel it. It's an inner glow. Radiance really is that soul glow. It comes from within. And so know that in every choice, we're either coding our body for survival and stress or for radiance and radiant health. And so in those moments, we remember that we are our own best wellness architect and we are the coder. We get to program our body for radiant health. And it's about knowing the truth of which foods are health promoting versus which foods are truly health hindering. And the irony is that so many of the foods they tell us to eat for our health actually hinder our health. And those that we're told to avoid are those that actually help us heal and create radiant health. So the body codes, it's like the symptoms you're experiencing are codes from the body showing you what's going on. When you start to sit and listen and identify, okay, I'm experiencing this, and then we get to the root, and it's like, this is coming up, this code. Now I can recode my body for radiance because I know the root. I know the health promoting foods that will help me heal. I know what to do to redesign my lifestyle in a way that allows for radiance to evolve naturally.
Absolutely. I love that. That's so beautiful. And how do you help coach women to navigate the landscape where there's just so much noise, like you've said and touched on? I mean, there's 15 different ways you can eat. Here's all the things that are non-toxic, but actually have some toxins. I was just reading last night, there was like a class action lawsuit against Celtic sea salt and a toothpaste I use for my kids that I thought was the better version because there was high levels of heavy metals. And I was like, we try so hard. And I know that there's a space where, you try your best and then you learn and you grow. But how do you coach women to really navigate that realm, especially if they're in the midst of struggling with their health and they're out of alignment? Where can we start?
Start simply. Like, I know it feels overwhelming, and I have explored and experimented with all these different diets, but what doesn't make sense is like, of the billions of people, like, are there really billions of different organs and physiology? Our biology is very similar. So the foods that code our body for health really are pretty standard. But what's different is our body blueprint based on our pathogenic load, our toxic load, the environment, all these other factors. But there are ways to know, okay, when we're looking at these different research studies, follow the funding. Who's funding the study? That's something that leads you to discern, okay, that's actually maybe a biased study. It's not longitudinal. Most of these studies are actually done on white male candidates. And so it's skewed data. But the nutrition world, the fitness space is so loud and in your face, telling you eat high protein, intermittent fast, do this. And it feels so confusing when we really just need simple. Like, come back to the basics. Nourish your body with whole, living, vibrant foods. If you want radiant health, eat living, vibrant, radiant foods. And so, beginning your day with lemon water to really support the cleansing and elimination in your body, to support your liver, to support your digestion, to support your skin health, your reproductive health. There are so many trends out there to avoid sugar because it's high in sugar, and it's like processed sugar is very different from whole fruit sugar. That sugar found in fruit, glucose, is the primary fuel for the body. And most of us, when we're burned out, we're not getting the right glucose, the quantity of glucose that we need. We're so focused on getting enough protein. But why are so many people sick? If protein were the answer to heal and that were the only answer, everyone would be experiencing radiant health. Glucose is that primary fuel, so we need to be eating more antioxidant rich foods, like fruits that help us to heal. If you want to bear fruit, eat fruit, you know? So to begin, it's like start with the foods that you eat, because as soon as you begin with food, food is the foundation. You want to architect radiant health, you start with the foundation, which is your physical body. And all the mental, emotional, other symptoms that you're experiencing will start to dissipate because that foundation of the physical body is being tended to. And once you start to do that, your body responds so fast. It recodes because it's always striving for balance and harmony and health.
Yes. Okay. That was amazing and super helpful. And I want to build on that a little bit more because you talk about how our bodies are either coding for survival or creation. Can you continue to touch on this? I feel like there's so much depth here that you have that's so interesting. And really, what can it look like every day to shift from survival into creation mode? Yes, we're all unique, but again, we're all humans and souls. And at a core level, I think there must be a way, right?
Absolutely. There's such a powerful way. And it really is with that intention of I am setting the intention to become the most radiant version of myself. And to code your body for creation looks like breathing more deeply, hydrating, being mindful of your food, moving your body. And it can also just be like setting the intention, like I am going to do something that codes my body for radiance, for creation, whether that's taking 3 minutes to meditate, taking 10 deep, full breaths to come into heart coherence. This is so fascinating. You'll love this with intuition. You already know it, but your heart sends 10 times the amount of signals to the brain than the brain to the heart. So when we come into heart coherence, our heart sends coherent signals to the brain, and then the brain transmit coherent signals to the body. So you come into that coherent state and you're in creation and anything feels possible. When we're in stress and fear, we contract and we congeal time, meaning we freeze time. So we extend the gap between where we are and where we desire to be. Fear has been used to manipulate and control. That is survival. Be very discerning with your own body, the information you're taking in, the media, the food. How does it make you feel? Food codes your body physically, energetically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You might feel physically bloated. You might feel energetically fatigued. You might feel mentally like there's some brain fog. You might feel anxiety. Emotionally, you might feel whatever emotion, frustration, anger coming up. Spiritually, you might feel disconnected. So the more you tap into your body wisdom and your intuition, the more you start to see, oh, this food makes me feel this way. And I always bring clients into their own awareness, because awareness is the catalyst for change and transformation. And once you see something, you can't unsee it. Once you know something, you cannot unknow it. And things like caffeine first thing in the morning code our body for survival, because it provides this false sense of energy. Caffeine is a central nervous system stimulant drug that creates addiction, and that codes our body for survival. That spikes adrenaline. It creates acidity in the body. And so then we're running on this false sense of energy, but we're not getting the glucose that the brain, the adrenals, the body need. So coding your body means nourishing your body with those whole living foods. And I can expound, but I'll let you take it from here.
No, I love that. I love this conversation because it's so hard, I think, to get into this level sometimes. I think we don't always have the space or the knowledge. I think you're doing a really nice job of distilling it to the base of, here are the things that we kind of do as a society, and how are you starting your day, touching in throughout the day, ending your day? What are you feeling through that day? Noticing what you're consuming or taking in and how that's affecting your body, that begins to give you the codes, like you said, and give you the insight of what you can start to shift to help it be better, or be curious and experiment. Okay, this isn't feeling quite good. So obviously something's still not quite right. And I think that leads me into a little bit of how intuition and its role can play. So I'm curious if you go deeper into how we can utilize it, or how you maybe even yourself have really leaned into it to help you navigate as you're learning, as you're finding your truth and your own alignment. How has that played a role for you?
Yeah, it's been such a journey because we've been conditioned to trust the experts, to give our power away to those who are experts in their field, but they're not experts in our body. And the way we interpret things, I mean, we've been interpreting fear and discomfort as a sign that we're maybe off path and we shouldn't do the thing that we desire. But that's conventional conditioning because fear is actually a gateway to our greatest desires. That discomfort you feel is actually a sign that you're growing. And so when you're coding your body for radiance and you begin to cleanse, you might eat foods that produce a cleansing reaction. And some people will say, well, I can't eat leafy greens raw because it's this intestinal discomfort. Well, the intestinal discomfort is because of the nerve sensitivity. And when you're eating leafy greens, which are highly alkalizing and cleansing, they're going along and they're scrubbing your intestines. They have the scouring effect to scour old debris, rancid fats, putrefied proteins, rotting proteins in the intestines that are creating ammonia permeability, ammonia gas, and different disorders, right? Different symptoms. And so those cleansing reactions can actually feel like, oh my God, this is so uncomfortable and I'm getting worse or I'm not healing. But like I said, and like David Guillaume says, it sometimes often feels worse before it gets better. It's darkest before the dawn. To heal, you need to cleanse. Cleansing creates this pristine environment in your body that allows your body to recalibrate, balance, and align to radiance. So understanding those codes of the body of like, okay, let's reframe this. I feel discomfort. I can't eat raw fruit. I can't eat raw apples or can't do lemon because of the acidity. And it creates, that's a cleansing reaction. It's just a sign that there's high pathogenic load or high toxic load in the body. And the body is reacting because those nutrients of that food is having that scouring effect and helping to heal. But the healing isn't always comfortable, but you get to the other side and you realize, oh my gosh, that was uncomfortable and I feel so much better. And now I know what was really going on in my body.
Yes. And so, how can one build strength as they move through that process? I think you have to be strong in general these days, but especially if you are navigating health challenges, you're not feeling well, things are not doing good. How do we cultivate that strength and the power back in us to navigate that discomfort, to navigate these reactions and trust in what is probably to come on the other side?
Yeah, so this is something that I've navigated a lot. Like, just because you're struggling doesn't mean you're weak. Your struggles are actually a sign of your strength. If you weren't able to handle it, you wouldn't be experiencing it right now. And yes, it's hard. Yes, it's heavy, but you're still carrying it. You're still navigating it. So that's a sign, a testament to your strength. It's not a sign of weakness. So acknowledging how strong you are already and that you are being forged in the fire when it feels like you're burning, when it feels like you're breaking, you are in the making. You're being prepared because my personal journey and my whole life has felt so intense at times. And like, I felt the victim mentality. I felt like the victim. I felt powerless. I felt so disconnected. Like, how can I heal? How is this possible? And then we start to share our story, and our story heals because you're not the only one experiencing what you're experiencing. And your story, what you're experiencing, isn't just for you, it's for the world. And so there's a purpose in your pain. There's a divine design in what you're experiencing because we're here to share through our embodied wisdom and our knowledge. And so many people are experiencing that which you're experiencing. And leaders go first. You lead yourself first, and then you can lead others. So, how are you going to lead yourself through this? Because you are so strong. And it's like, yes, in those moments where you want to throw in the towel, you want to quit, you want to give up, those are the moments to lean in. When the resistance spikes, when the fear is heightened, those are the moments when you're so close to the breakthrough. It's like when the rocket is launched and it has the boosters. It needs those boosters to break through to the atmosphere, right? To have that extra support to move through that resistance, to push past that resistance. It's the same thing when we're healing, when we're growing personally and spiritually. And so having that strength, knowing that food actually has these properties that support us, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and energetically, that we can harness the power of food to support us spiritually and emotionally. And that is powerful, knowing that the food is here for us to heal and it's to sustain us. And that strength comes by first honing in on your physical body, that your adrenals are key for that. So to hone in on adrenal health, start eating more frequently, adrenal grazing, begin taking adrenal supportive supplements like licorice root, ashwagandha, lemon balm, all of these different things to really support the body and to code it for radiance and strength because the system wants you to believe that your diagnosis is your destiny, that you have to learn to live with the symptoms, that you have to manage this condition, that there's no other option but medication. But there's another way. I heal naturally, and I know that I've seen it happen. I've seen people heal naturally because they learn to recode their body for radiance.
That's so powerful and such an important aspect to remember that there's never just one choice. There's so many more choices. And I remember going to a science museum and learning about how plants were here for billions of years, so many, even more than that. Everything that came after adjusted based on what that next animal, insect, human needed. And there was always a symbiotic relationship that allowed everything to thrive. And so I think there needs to be more recognition of the power that is inherent in our natural world. Things that we can learn and take that we have been doing. I think many cultures, Eastern cultures, have been doing for so long and understand this principle, but we in the West have a bit to go. And it's not to denounce Western medicine or the power of some of those drugs. It's more to realize that's the only method and way that we're being shown right now. And in reality, there's a lot more available to each of us.
So much more. And one thing I wanted to come back to is the strength. I feel like the strongest souls go through the most intense struggles. So when you're feeling like you're feeling defeated and you're going through this deep struggle, you're just such a strong soul with such a huge calling and purpose and trust. Like lean in because you are being prepared, you're being forged. But these things in our world, our natural world, we evolved with the plants. The plants are here to help us heal, and we help heal the planet when we live in that harmonious balance in a relationship with the earth. Things come into balance. We're designed to harvest the plants and use them for their medicinal value. Why
Mhm.
do we trust big pharma more than we trust nature?
Yes. And I hear my brother, who's actually in his residency program now, saying, well, all medicine's made from aspects of those plants typically. And I'm like, again, we've removed, we've stripped, we've said, this is what I want, and let's throw the rest away. When in reality, there's so much happening under the surface. And I think that relates back to us as souls in a body. And we're so complex in our emotions and all these aspects of you can't just hyper focus on one part, but you can identify and look at each and this whole and know that they're all going to affect each other. So, yes, while you need to tend to each individual parts, your emotions, your physicality, your spirituality, your soul, your mentality, it's also this bigger holistic aspect that comes into account as well.
Absolutely, because everything is interconnected. You can't isolate these parts of the whole. When you look at the medications, we're looking at that one compound from a plant, but the plant is designed to have all these other nutrients that work synergistically together to boost that compound and elevate the medicinal effect. Then, not to mention the other ingredients in big pharmaceutical medications like petroleum based. Most are petroleum based. Many have toxic heavy metals, microplastics. And we're not talking about the implications those have on our mental health, our physical health, everything.
Yes. Okay. So this brings me to wanting to talk about the preconception era, which is a
Yeah.
term you've coined, and I'm super excited to touch on because I feel like it's such a unique and needed perspective. So, can we start to talk about what that means and looks like?
Absolutely. So this was inspired by Dr. Afroosta Mary, who's a women's health specialist who coined the term trimester zero. And she focuses on the first 3 months prior to conception. For me, I've been in my preconception era for a few years now. I'm single and I am getting ready for partnership and motherhood. And I'm very aware of the time before pregnancy. Your health is the foundation, as you can attest. Being 6 months pregnant and having already had 3 children, when you're pregnant, your immune system is lowered by 50%. So these symptoms that have been so normalized during pregnancy arise too because of the diminished immune system strength. And so in the preconception era, we're focusing not just on the healing of the physical body, but the becoming of the woman that you're here to be, stepping more into alignment with your soul calling, your soul purpose, and understanding your unique body blueprint, understanding your energetic blueprint, which is your human design and how you're designed to live, work, create, relate, and operate in this world. And so it's really this time where you're focusing on healing and creating a foundation of radiant health, because when we do that, we create this radiant pregnancy, a more blissful postpartum, and that sets the stage for us women later in life too, because perimenopause, menopause, all those symptoms are not normal. And so it then allows us to heal and experience radiance all throughout, because I've seen so many women have horrifying pregnancies, challenging pregnancies, just symptomatic pregnancies where they're like, oh, I was in bed for 5 months of this pregnancy, so sick. I am so glad I had my baby. It was worth the pain. But it's like, why can't the whole journey be more magical and radiant filled? So that was inspired. And I just see that there's this lack of awareness of what the body needs to heal and really focusing on our health before conception, because your toxic load, your pathogenic load gets passed to your baby. So the cleansing is so essential. And the healthier you are, the healthier your pregnancy, the healthier your baby. It's the foundation for your future and your family.
Yes, and I think it's so, so important. Motherhood was something in that journey of being pregnant and postpartum and then watching others go through it. And for me, thankfully, I've had pretty good pregnancies. I don't feel the best during the first trimester, but as soon as that placenta comes online, it's like, oh, okay, I've got it. I'm a whole new person and I'm good. But it really stoked this fire of, wow, I was not the norm. This was not the norm, but I would love it to be or to be talked about, to hear the possibility that you can have this type of pregnancy or move through that. But we're so disconnected and we're not given that information. Pregnancy is looked at as a medical diagnosis, which, yes, something is happening. However, I don't feel like it's something you need to treat. This is something our bodies are innately wise to do. And I think that for any woman, whether they're planning to have children or not, can probably learn so much from either way, these principles that you probably undertake in this method. So I'd love to talk a little bit about that. Just like what are those universal lessons that we can all take away from understanding our fertility and this preconception as markers of overall health and vitality?
Yes, I've had so many women say, "Oh, well, you do preconception. Like, I've already had children. I don't see how your work applies to me." And it's like, it really is so multidimensional, and it's for women of all ages. I've supported women in their teens up until their 70s. And so it really is understanding the innate wisdom of our bodies and finding that the symptoms that you're experiencing are not normal. It's just like, okay, let's hone in, because even if you don't want to have children or you've already had children, your fertility still is an overall reflection of your health. And most don't realize that they can feel better because our standards for health are so low in our world. And so we don't even know what else is possible because we've just had this threshold, this baseline of what health is with symptoms. And oh, if you have a headache or you have something, just take a pill for it. And it's like, but let's get to the root. Like, what's beneath that? I'm not saying, like, I'm definitely saying there's a time and place for medication and medical intervention. I'm all for that. And for me, it's like the missing piece has been with the chronic illness and these symptoms that have been so normalized. And women's health has been severely overlooked. You look at the patriarchal medical system, and if a woman was experiencing hormonal imbalance or emotional distress, oh, it's hysteria, give her a medication or do a hysterectomy. It's like, That's not the solution. There's actually something deeper. And so for women of all ages, it's like owning your body, owning your power, your body speaking to you, and honing in on your foundation with the hydration, supplementation, the nutrition. All of those things are going to really support you in experiencing more radiance and unlocking your power, because as you reclaim your health, you remember your power and reawaken your potential. My health journey wasn't just about experiencing radiant health. It was about me stepping into my power, into my purpose, and realizing my potential. And that's what we're all here for. We're all here for such a divine purpose, a reason, and it's so much more than what we are currently experiencing. And so your health is simply a gateway to more.
Yes, the word that I was hearing over and over as you were speaking was a lot of what you're offering and sharing with us is around empowering you to do what you can within your home, within what is accessible to you. It's not waiting for that doctor visit. It's not waiting for that prescription or something else or someone else to come save you. I think we've, for whatever reason, set up such a savior complex within our society that a lot of what you're sharing is you are capable of taking back your power, your health, and doing that from your own seat. Yes, having support and having someone to guide you can be so important, but in reality, your body is so wise too. It's just, are you listening? Do you have the space to start to slow down enough to say, hey, how do I feel? I am just constantly in this running game. And if I start to slow down, what is it actually sharing with me? And what am I curious to explore or learn about? Because yes, I think it takes time to cultivate all the knowledge that you yourself have. What I have learned over the last decade plus of my own very similar journey of I've learned this natural relationship with myself in my being where I trust if I give my body the right things that to help it shift through this, that I will be fine and stronger. And I've really tried to share within my children the feelings of, it's scary when you're sick. It's scary when you don't feel good. However, I know you are going to get through this. And did you know that this is actually building your immune system? This is building you up for something better. Now, this is different than chronic illness, right? Or something like that. But I think I'm really attempting to reshape the narrative around it. And so I'll stop there and see if you want to add anything. But I just get so excited because I know the potential, I've seen it. It's super simple. Like my go-to kit is so base, and yet it's so powerful.
Because it's of the earth, like these things that heal, the most powerful antibiotics can be garlic, can be from the earth, these herbs, it's the conditioning.
Yes.
And it is like it's that victim victor, it's that savior complex of feeling like I spent so much time and money investing in others thinking they had the answer and they were going to be the ones that rescued and saved me. And then it's this remembrance of our power. And that's why I'm so passionate about this embodiment and empowerment journey, because you, when you're connected to your body and you have your health, you are connected to your power and you are limitless. You are unstoppable. But they have created the system by design to disconnect us from our body and our power so that we maintain the status quo and stay confined by a system that doesn't actually create radiant health, that doesn't create abundant wealth, that doesn't create the sovereignty, the freedom that we're here to experience. And there's so much more, but they keep us distracted with these fear, lack, limitation, these problems here with our health when there's so much more beyond that.
Yes, what I want to talk about and what I'm hearing is really wanting to talk further about that conditioning. So, as much as getting the right nutrients, getting the right foods, just having the resources that can be your go-to to make sure that brings you to health, that brings you to what you need at this time. How do you see conditioning and that role playing a part in the healing journey, in becoming embodied and having the wellness? Because I think that's probably something that goes hand in hand, but we don't maybe talk about.
Absolutely. So, as you know, your body is around 70% water. Your womb is like 99% water. Your brain is 90% water. Your cerebral spinal fluid. And you've seen Dr. Masaru Emoto's work, how molecules of water will respond to frequency, whether that's a frequency of gratitude, a frequency of hate, a frequency of love, a frequency of fear, thoughts, words, music. Everything is energy, everything is frequency. You're in that dense form. of matter, right? Our bodies are matter, but there's like 99.99% space in between, and everything is just energy, but this is the densest form of energy we're experiencing. And so our bodies respond to our beliefs, our thoughts, our emotions. And so many of these thoughts that we think are repetitive. And of those 60 to 80,000 thoughts that we think a day, 85% are negative. And so, what are we coding our body for? We're coding our biology through our minds. And so, we want to begin to recode our mind and also like focus on the foundation of the body. But what you think, what you believe, if you believe you're going to be destined for this diagnosis, that you're just going to have to learn to manage the symptoms, that you can't change your health, sculpt your body in the way that you desire, you'll create that reality. It's like whatever you tell your subconscious mind and you believe and unconsciously say yes to, then you say yes, and it sends a relay signal to your ego to create evidence of that which you believe. And so look at your world around you and what are you currently experiencing? Well, what you're currently experiencing is simply a mirror of what you've been expecting. And so when we begin to realize our power to create radiant health, to architect the life that we desire, to reshape our reality, to rewrite our destiny, it can feel like a lot. It can feel like a lot of responsibility. We did the best with what we knew at the time. And as Maya Angelou says, when we know better, we do better. And so, what are we going to write today? What are we going to create today? Are we living in creation or reaction? Creation and reaction contain the same letters, yet convey different frequencies and meanings. When you're living in reaction, you're living in the fear and survival. When you're living in creation, you're in that creation and radiance, and anything is possible. Feel you can feel it in your body. Fear, reaction, you kind of shrink. It's all about how do we hold our body? How do we walk? How do we speak? How do we think? Because our posture changes our physiology. How we walk, how we talk, how we are in the world and conduct ourselves in the world matters. And our bodies respond to that energy, to that thought, to that whatever it is we're saying to ourselves in the mirror. And so, so much of what you're thinking isn't actually yours. And there are these mind manipulations, like they're trying to code and program us through media, through the news, through music, to think in a way that disconnects us from our true power. And so, this is a journey of liberation and remembering your sovereignty, remembering your power, and seeing, wow, okay, when I become aware of the thoughts that I'm thinking and I become aware of the expectations that I have influencing that which I experience, what do I want to create instead? What do I want to experience instead? And start to bring that, like, what else is possible instead of seeing it as, what if it doesn't work? What if I can't heal? It's not possible for me. I'll never lose the weight. I'll never get pregnant, because so many women who are dealing with fertility challenges feel like they just can't get pregnant. It's not possible for them. Or so many women are dealing with these symptoms that they don't feel they can heal. But it's like, let this podcast episode be an activation, a transmission to reignite your remembrance of your power so that you can believe again that you can heal, knowing that you are capable, you are powerful.
Definitely. And where can someone start? So, hearing that, I can feel that activation. I can feel that call for, okay, let's step forward, let's energize. Where do people start? No matter the spectrum, I guess, of where they're coming from, how can someone start to identify where that next focus should be to do exactly as you're saying?
Start with the physical foundation. Start with the hydration. Start simple, because it's those small, subtle habits that compound over time. It's like James Clear in his book, Atomic Habits. Start with the 1%. Drink 8 ounces of water in the morning with lemon juice to revitalize your body. And then start to get outside, get some sunshine. Just start small, little things, and observe your thoughts, observe how you feel, and start to really see yourself. What I love about wellness architecture and lifestyle design is that it's seeing your body and your health as your greatest creation, your greatest masterpiece, your art, and your life is your creation, yours to design, yours to experience, yours to create in such a myriad of ways. And so, what is it that you would like to experience? Like, what are the current identities that you've been holding on to? Because often when we feel a certain way, we're dealing with symptoms, we start to think in a certain way, we feel in a certain way, and then we act in a certain way, all of which reinforce and reinstill that old identity. But to create that new identity and to identify differently, we have to begin to act differently, to think differently. And so just change it up, and that 1% will create a shift. But when you start with the physical, because I started to try and heal myself through mindset alone, and I wasn't nourishing my brain, my body with the nutrients that it needed, I wasn't healing in the way that I knew I could. So when you focus on the physical foundation, your physical body, hydration, nourishing your body with fruits and supplements and different things that are health promoting, you'll really start to recode your entire physiology, your entire biology, and your brain too, your thoughts.
I love that. And I think that's super important to start small, but actually start. I think, right? We
Yes.
can think about it, but actually start to shift something. And it made me think about, too, though, I think in this realm of wellness and even spirituality, there's always like this want to just get to that end goal and, or, okay, I'll finally be good when I'm healed. I'll finally be okay when this happens, or I unblock all my things. And I really seen that that can spiral, that people can kind of really lose their grounding or struggle, or they're only putting all their focus on that end point. And while obviously in this realm of wellness, that is a big goal, is to feel radiant. But I think life is constantly going to be changing. You're going to be moving through that. It is not a linear journey that we're here on. So for women who may be in the midst of either just feeling that way or in the midst of being still really sick and struggling and not seeing that end, what advice can you give to those to help them stay present and find strength and shift that perspective of, yes, while there is goals that you're going to meet, how do we stay fluid and still flow with our life?
It's seeing it as a journey of becoming. It's not just about getting healthy. It's about becoming radiantly healthy, knowing that your health is not a destination, a journey. But if you plug in a destination on your maps, you're going to have a route. You're on the path. The path to radiance is created by you taking that first step. And the perfect time to take that step is now. And so remembering that even if there are roadblocks, even if there are detours, you're still on the path to radiance. That just because you did something that wasn't quite aligned, you're getting feedback. You're your own best experiment. And so everything you do is feedback. Everything that you experience is simply telling you if you're on that aligned path or where you've kind of come out of alignment, and just an invitation back to realignment. And you can see it as, okay, I'm going to go down this path today and see how that feels, and experiment and play and make it joyful, because so much of the personal growth and development, so much of the healing and the health space has been so rigid and focused on goals and doing it this way. And that's why I love infusing artistry and intentionality, where it's like, how does it feel? Like you can tap into the frequency of radiance now. You can say, body, show me what it feels like to feel radiant now. And you'll feel like this expansion in your field. It's not just about the doing and the checking of boxes, it's the becoming and it's the being. And it's doing those things that create that state of being, because you remember you're your own best return on investment, that your health and you doing this today is an investment now and for your future.
That's so big. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that and just reminding us it is a journey, and be where you are, be where you're at, stay present, but know you're capable of shifting in every moment and choosing again and thinking differently and reclaiming whatever parts of yourself or your life that you're wanting to.
Exactly. And see it as like, oh, I created this. How funny. Like infuse it with that play and what else is possible. Because I know we can get so rigid and so stuck. And when we shame ourselves, we're infusing our body and our biology with those frequencies of doubt and limitation. And we give up. And then we start to say, oh, it's not possible for me. Instead of saying, this is just something that I'm experiencing that is testing to see if I'll go back to the old way of being, thinking, and doing. Or if I rise, who am I in the face of these challenges? We want to feel good, we want to feel happy, but there is the duality. And it's like we don't become stronger by sitting still, we become stronger by climbing the mountain.
Yes. And enjoying the journey, like you said,
Yeah,
enjoying the journey as you climb the mountain, but being willing to do it, to face the fears, to face the discomfort, and know there's freedom usually on the other side.
always. Because by facing that fear, your fears lead to your freedom.
Yes. Both of us have learned that, and we will still find that. We will still have new fears and we'll find new freedoms.
All the time, all the
Yes.
time. My motivation in human design is fear. And
Okay.
so I have been feeling so much fear recently. And I'm just like, okay, well, this is a great sign. I'm feeling the fear and I'm feeling discomfort. And it's a sign to go forward, to make that decision, to do the thing. And it scares the living daylights out of me. And yet, where the fear is, where the resistance is, there I go. Stephen Pressfield says the more resistance you feel towards something, the more important it is for your personal and spiritual evolution.
So let it guide us. Let your resistance be your motivator, not your point where you turn the other way and go somewhere else. Let it guide you on its way. So the last thing I want to ask you is if you could leave the women listening with one other truth or aspect about their body's wisdom and potential, what would it be?
That no matter where you are right now, whatever you're feeling, know that you can heal. That where you are right now does not determine where you're going. It's simply a little point on the path that you're on, and know that where you are right now does not determine where you're going. You are limitless. You are so powerful. And my greatest desire for you is that you remember your power and become the woman you're meant to be.
Thank you for that. That was so lovely. And I guess I lied. I have one more question because this is a question I like to ask my guests when they come on related to their intuition. So I would love to hear about what has helped you the most in unlocking and deepening your connection with your intuition.
Trusting it, trusting myself, following it, even when it doesn't make sense. Because often when we hear that intuition, when we feel it in our body, the mind will come in and override. That fear, that doubt is not even ours. So we have to be very discerning and say, is this even true? And then when you say it, it dispels that doubt, that limitation. And so it's harnessing that connection to your body, knowing that your body is your greatest source of divine wisdom.
Oh, I agree. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And before I let you go, where can people connect with you and learn more about your work?
Absolutely. So we can connect on Instagram. My handle is at I am, like the mantra, I am Anna Finck. And my website is annafink.com. That's ANNAFINCK. And I would love to connect more and support you as you walk on your wellness and becoming journey.
Well, thank you so much, Anna. This was such a delight. I want to keep going and keep going. I feel like we could, but this, I think, was a powerhouse of a conversation and got a lot of wisdom to those listening. So thank you for your time and energy today.
My pleasure. Thank you for your time, for your light, for your contribution. And thank you to all the listeners who are here investing their time and their energy with us today. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Oh, that's so amazing. Thank you. Thank you for joining me on Intuition Unlocked. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a moment of insight, guidance, or intuitive inspiration. To dive deeper into our community and get access to exclusive content, head to my website at www.olivia-ashley.com and subscribe to my newsletter. You can also connect with me on Instagram at wildlyolivia for daily inspiration and updates. Remember, your intuition is your superpower. Trust it, nurture it, and let it guide you. Until next time, I'm Olivia Ashley, and I can't wait to connect with you again.